Hey guys, and welcome to Deeper Than Most. I'm your host, DJ.
And I'm your host, Sav.
So today we are on episode 8.
Yes, and this is part 3 of the FNC series.
Ooh.
Yeah, getting on up there.
Yeah, 2 more episodes and we're at 10. What are we going to do? Probably nothing.
No, but I don't know. We might do an interesting episode. Who knows?
Might be a surprise for you guys.
You never know. All right, so today's state is going to be Arizona, and this is a case from 1978, and our victim is Pauline Robbin Burgett.
Oh, nice. I personally haven't heard about that case.
I think I have. I think I watched a true crime video on it. I'm pretty sure I have. I've watched, true crime videos on just about everything, so.
Makes sense. I'm down for it. Whatever.
Yeah. But before we jump into that, we're going to go ahead and hop into our current events.
All right, let's do it. All right, so it gets real good these days. U.S. colleges require vaccinations for these kids to return to school, dude. So
I told you that they were going to try to make it mandatory.
You remember how...
They're going to figure out a way to make that shit, mandatory. And they're doing it with travel, too.
Yeah.
International travel, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, international and in-state.
Domestic.
Domestic, yeah. So, all air travel, pretty much.
Can't go nowhere.
You can't go anywhere unless you have the vaccine. So, they're finding ways. I feel like it's eventually going to get to the point where they say, in order to, go back to work, you have to have, doctor's note or, a proof that you've gotten a vaccine.
Right.
So,
or,
we'll
the
see.
vaccine card or however they do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to just see. But I feel like that's what we're headed towards,
So, a growing number of U.S. colleges have said all students must be fully vaccinated before returning to campus, in a move likely to anger some state governors, which is understandable because, what the fuck?
It should be a choice because you do have people out there that are pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, and I feel like you shouldn't have to force people to get something like this. Although it is for the better of society and it's for the better of everybody, I still think it should be a choice just like everything else is.
Right.
I don't think that this should be excluded just because, I don't know, just because.
Weird stuff.
Yeah.
At least 14 colleges have said vaccination will be required so far, according to CNN, which they do a tally on that stuff, and I didn't even know that was a thing. Why? I don't know.
Interesting.
And it says that number is expected to grow. So it's only 14 colleges that are doing it now, but more.
That's still a lot, though. Right off the bat, 14.
In late March, Rutgers University became one of the first institutions to declare that having all students vaccinated will allow for an expedited return to pre-pandemic normal, which there isn't even a normal anymore.
I don't think we can ever revert back to completely normal after all this. So,
we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
So it says Cornell, Brown, Notre Dame,
and did you say the P word? You're supposed to say panoramic or something. You can't say the word.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
YouTube be on that stuff. So go ahead.
Cornell, Brown, Notre Dame, Northeastern, Syracuse, Ithaca, and Fort Lewis have made similar announcements. Though all will make exceptions for medical or religious reasons, Cornell has also created an online registration tool so students and staff can register their vaccination status.
I don't know. It just seems too controlling for me.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, it's just too much.
On there.
But, hey, I guess they got to do what they got to do.
No, America, right? Ooh,
yeah.
Fun.
So our second current event is the lost golden city of Luxor. And this one was really cool. I got super excited when I found it. So there was an article made by National Geographic, and it was published on April 8th of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about the city of Luxor, which is 3,400 years old. And it's in Egypt, by the way.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah. It was a royal city, and it was built by Amenhotep III.
That's whose father is that?
I don't know. I don't remember the names.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Oh, his son is
Akhenaten.
Yes. So the city was abandoned by his heretic son Akhenaten, and he, his son was completely against everything that his father believed in. So this is a big part of why the city of Luxor kind of went to shit and just like vanished is because like he, for one, abandoned the city, and then his son didn't want anything to do with it either, so it was abandoned by his son as well. Luxor contains stunningly preserved remains, which is really cool.
That's an interesting find.
Yes.
Because what they use spices and herbs to preserve their dead. That's why you get your mummies. That's why they wrap them up. Like
I wonder what they be smelling like when they come out the ground. Or out the tomb. I can only imagine. Yeah. Extra seasoned. Anyway. Yeah.
Seasoned death.
All right.
That's crazy.
So the pharaoh Akhenaten.
Who is that? Who is that?
Akhenaten. Oh.
Akhenaten?
I spelled it wrong. Akhenaten. Ruled in Luxor alongside his wife Nefertiti.
Oh, this is their parents.
Yeah, and they worshipped the sun. I know, it's kind of cool. So it goes even further back.
Yeah, these are King Tut's parents.
Mm-hmm. Originally, it was originally discovered back in September of 2020, but they didn't make an article about it until now.
Oh, why, huh?
I don't know. I guess they tried to like keep it under wraps for a while.
They're not supposed to be touching
They're not,
that shit.
but hey, it ain't us. Archaeologists have only scratched the surface and say that it's a snapshot into time. And they kind of referred to this as the Egyptian Pompeii.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. The compound has zigzag walls and many corridors, and they also found piles of ancient artifacts from the era of
Amenhotep?
Yeah, Amenhotep III.
I got you. Yeah, I got you.
Thanks, coming in clutch. My brain was not processing that shit just then. They also found homes where workers could have lived, a bakery, and a kitchen. So that was a really cool find. It was kind of like a breakthrough and discovery. So, yeah. Then we're going to go ahead and jump into our last current event. And this one, I guess we can break it down. We'll just jump off bullet points. So we want to go ahead and say rest in peace to DMX. Mm-hmm. He passed away on April 9th, and this was due to him suffering a heart attack, which ended up being fatal, and he died in the hospital, so.
Right. He was in White Plains Hospital in New York, right? Mm-hmm. Surrounded by his loved ones, and that's a beautiful thing, because a lot of people don't even get
not everybody gets. Sorry.
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, good. Not everybody gets that, though. Not everybody gets that, though. It was so many people that don't get that. So.
He was with his family when he passed away.
Yeah. DMX was, as we all know, a rapper and an actor. He released iconic songs that are still gems till today. I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody, I feel like everybody knows at least one DMX song.
Yeah.
At least one. Just because of how iconic his songs were, for the time and even now.
If you don't know by name, you've heard the song probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even if you don't know the name or it's not on your playlist, I'm pretty sure you probably heard a DMX song.
His real name, Earl Simmons, and he left behind 15 children and a huge family that loved him. So I hope all 15 of his kids.
A lot of people, yeah. Hopefully they're doing okay.
And I hope they're doing all right.
Taking it day by day. That's really all you can do in that type of situation. We're gonna go ahead and jump into our favorite songs and movies by DMX. So one movie recommendation from me, one from him, and one song recommendation from him, and one from me. So you want to go ahead and say your movie recommendation?
So in terms of movies, DMX was a cool actor, bro. I loved him in Belly. I thought that was a great movie. It had Nas in it.
I haven't seen Belly.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent, crime movie. It has Nas narration in those type of movies.
Is it one of those movies like Love and Hip Hop where, black people say if you haven't seen it, your black card gets revoked?
Yeah, I would say that.
Damn. Are you about to take my black card?
You can keep it.
Okay, cool. I haven't seen Love and Hip Hop either. Not Love and Hip Hop, Love and Basketball.
Oh, God.
I don't plan on it either, so I feel like it's too late now, babe. But I feel like it's too late for me to even try now.
Oh, no, it's not late. It's never too late.
I don't really have an interest in doing it.
Yeah, it's wild though.
And then my favorite movie with DMX in it is Never Die Alone. I love that movie so much. If you haven't seen it, watch it because it's kind of underrated. I've never heard anybody talk about the movie, so like throughout all my life, the only person that showed me the movie was my mom. She was the only person I knew that knew the movie, and I was hooked ever since. So yeah, it's a really good movie. It's pretty crazy and wild. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking that out. And what's your favorite song by him?
Boy, there's a couple, but my all-time favorite is What These Females Want.
Okay, yeah. Nice choice of words.
What about you?
And mine is Up in Here.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's kind of basic, but
it's good
it's
when
a
you go
good
on
song.
tour. You don't even got to say a word. The whole crowd just
Oh yeah, that's one of those songs for sure.
Yeah.
So that is all that we have for our current events today, and now we're gonna go ahead and get into today's case, which is Arizona, and this is the case of Pauline Robbin Burgett from 1978. Okay, so I just want to say there is a sensitivity disclaimer for this case, just because it's pretty graphic. So I just want to put that out there. If you're not into more graphic cases or like descriptions of graphic things, then now's your chance to leave.
Like we've mentioned before, if it's not your cup of tea, gladly click away from
it. So I want to go ahead and jump into Pauline's background. She's also referred to as Robbin, so I'll refer to her as Robbin in this because that was like her nickname. Okay. Robbin had a younger brother named Chad, and Chad described her as very outgoing. He said that she loved life and the outdoors. Chad stated she hated wearing shoes and loved the hot summers. She was a great sister and my friend. Robbin, I know, yeah. So he really loved his sister. Yeah, really there's a lot of relationships where it's like brothers and sisters kind of like clash and go at it. But from like all the research that I did for this case, it seemed like they had a pretty like close-knit relationship, which is always nice. Beautiful. Yeah, and don't you and your sister have a pretty close relationship? I would say you guys do. Yeah. I definitely don't see any like tension between you guys, so I feel like you guys kind of have
after our same understanding, bro. We pretty chill.
Yeah, you guys are super close. Robbin lived with her mom and her brother in a duplex, and she was also a babysitter.
That's good.
So. She was 16.
Pretty typical stuff.
Yeah, for a 16-year-old, right. She was only 16 at the time of her death, and her murder took place on March 12th, 1978.
We're going to dive into the backstory a little bit. The apartment the family lived in was located in Phoenix near 26th Street and McDowell Road. Over the weekend of her death, Robbin's mom and brother were out of town on a getaway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were on like a little, weekend getaway, mini vacation.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, she was babysitting on the west side of Phoenix. Ooh.
It's Detective Schwarzkopf. Schwarzkopf.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Schwarzkopf.
Because I think the P.
Kopf. Something.
Detective.
Just say Detective Schwartz.
Detective Schwartz.
I don't know the end part.
Said, we know there were problems at the other complex with a gentleman making advances. Detective Schwartz said, we know there were problems at the other complex with a gentleman making advances on her while she was babysitting there for 3 weeks prior to the murder.
Yeah, and that's something that you want to take note of.
Yeah, that's a very interesting statement.
And that's just weird in general,
She's 16, bro.
Exactly, right? But some people just don't care.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say on that.
Yeah. Also, prior to the murder, threats were made against Pauline from people at the apartment she used to babysit at before.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people...
And I believe it was partially due to men making advances at her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll kind of go into that like later, but yeah, certain men making advances at her would kind of cause like a chain reaction for other people to get upset about it. Mm-hmm. And it'll make sense later on in the story. So the events of that day, Chad and their mom were coming home from the getaway. And upon their arrival, Chad found his sister's dead body in her bedroom. It was said by witnesses that during Chad and their mom's getaway, Pauline was at a friend's house. On Saturday, she left around 8 p.m. to meet with her boyfriend, and police were unsure if she actually ended up even meeting with him. They were never able to determine if she had met up with him or not, which I found that kind of odd.
Did somebody see them? Or like?
Exactly. And like you said, wouldn't somebody have seen them? Pauline wasn't seen alive after leaving the friend's house. So that's why I'm guessing that's why they were, well, yeah, that is why they were unsure of if she ended up meeting up with him, because there was yeah, exactly. She had dropped out of high school at this time, and she also had many boyfriends as well. And this led police to believe that the murderer was one of her boyfriends or a recent ex.
Which is
very
likely succession.
Yeah, it's very likely that it could have been. I mean, they are young, but people do get defensive over their feelings, and I mean, that's typically where you first look in a case.
Phrase,
is the
love
spouse.
makes you do crazy things is not.
But like as kids, though, like, I mean, then again, it is high school, and people do some crazy stuff in high school.
Yeah, really crazy shit. And so now, guys, we're gonna take a little minute to thank our sponsors.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free and it's easy to use.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or computer, making it the best user experience around.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, making it so you don't have to upload to each individual platform.
And the best thing about it, you can make money straight from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
So please, download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. And that's Anchor.fm, spelled ANCHOR.FM.
So what are you doing? Download the free Anchor app now. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get into the crime scene. And the crime scene is where it gets crazy. Yeah. So police concluded that Robbin was likely sexually assaulted and had been stabbed to death. Detective Schwartz said it was brutal, whoever committed the crime. This was a crime of anger and rage, and Robbin knew her perpetrator. DNA was found at the crime scene, even though they never found a match to this DNA. And honestly, I feel like nowadays they honestly could
they probably
find a match through all the DNA testing and the ancestry and
they could definitely find a match.
All the forward technology that they have today, for the police. I feel like honestly, if they wanted to reopen this case, they could. There was no sign of forced entry, so that means that the murderer was invited in.
That trust factor.
Yes, exactly. And so obviously if the person was invited in, it wasn't a robbery. Right. So it could not be a robbery because nothing was missing as well. Right. So no break-in, nothing was missing. Obviously, that's going to rule out a robbery, right off the bat.
Definitely somebody that's been there before, somebody that knows.
Yeah, somebody she trusts, like you said, that trust factor. Since the perpetrator was enraged, police suspected that it could have been a boyfriend or an ex. And that's why they think that it could have been a boyfriend or an ex, is just literally just because of that. So. And
to further elaborate on this crime scene, a source said there was an elderly man who would make a number of advances at her. Of course, he's fucking old. Oh, oof. The DNA found at the scene was that of two people who would have been at the scene at the time of the murder. This evidence shows that she was either sexually assaulted or had consensual sex with a BF or an ex. Autopsy reports concluded that Pauline had been stabbed repeatedly and hit with a blunt object. So you knock her over the head and you stab her. Well, or probably reverse. You stab her and knock her over the head. Why?
Probably, honestly, I don't even want to try to put it in perspective, but if I were, I would say it would make sense that they probably hit her with the blunt object first, just to either, render her unconscious or to kind of, make them more powerful. Like, they hold the power, right? Because
kind of just they're,
she's obviously hurt if you're hitting her with a blunt object. Right. So it hinders her opportunity to actually be able to fight back.
Right. Especially if you probably like hit her in the head or in the back. Or just
exactly. Allowing her to then be stabbed repeatedly.
Right.
So the ending theories are that there are many theories on who could have killed Pauline, and one of these is an ex or a current boyfriend, like we stated before. It is pretty likely that it could have been. Like, just because of that, the fact that they cannot distinguish if she was sexually assaulted or had consensual sex, kind of, points it into that direction. It puts it in perspective, definitely. Right. But in a sense, like, all of these theories are possible. Just like how I was telling you about the whole Princess Diana fiasco, and how literally every single theory seems plausible. That's how this case is. Every single theory seems plausible. So the next one is the old man that was making advances could have been the one to carry out this ordeal, and it could be because she wasn't giving back into those advances, and she was probably, rejecting him. Yeah, and over time, maybe he probably did get upset and, like, sick of it, and so he probably lashed out. And the third theory is that it could have been the wives of the men who have shown interest in her, and this is what I was referring to earlier, is that there were other people that would get upset with her and how, like, she was getting cussed at and, like, kicked out of, like, apartment complexes. Yeah, it could have been the wives, just out of rage, thinking that she was having an affair with their husband.
You homewrecker, I can see it now.
Yeah, so also, it could have been a random woman who lived at another complex. And this was reported, or she was reported screaming at Pauline, telling her to never come back. Nobody knows why. That's just what was reported. is her telling her to never come back. What happened? I don't know, but it must have been something.
It had to be pretty serious for her to, like, never come back.
Exactly. And then the last theory could be a gentleman who got upset with Pauline while she was babysitting. He had cut her work short and took her home immediately, and he ordered her to never return to his residence.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what could have
in that situation
happened.
His wife probably talked to him and was like, I don't know why you keep having this young girl come over here, always around her kids, and, like, something like that.
I mean, but, like, what does that have to do with Pauline? I
don't know.
I don't think that he would have taken it out on Pauline on the ride home. He could have probably cut her work short and took her home and ordered her to never return. But the fact that he got upset with her, I don't think he would get upset with Pauline if it was something that his spouse was upset about. I think he'd be like, hey, she's just feeling some type of way, thinking that, I'm interested in you, even though you're underage. Hello. And so, hey, you can never work for us again. Like, I don't think he would just be upset with her. So, it has been almost 43 years in March. Whoa, fuck, it's April now.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been it's been 43 years since the murder of 16-year-old Pauline Robbin Burgett. And this was a shorter case today, guys, just because there is not a lot of information on this case. So, yes. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into our ending questions. And honestly, there was just not a lot of details on this case.
Yeah, and that's the scary part of it, because it's like, we don't really
and they never found, it's unsolved. They never found the killer. So who knows? Like, the fact that it happens all the time, but the fact that people are just, like, out and about that have done gruesome things like this and just, like, suffer no repercussions from it. It's just kind
crazy,
of mind-blowing. Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into the ending questions. You want to go ahead with the first one?
Yes. So, who do you think could be responsible for the murder? Me, personally, I'm going to say I'm going to go with an X on this one. Definitely going to go with an X.
Yeah, it seems pretty plausible.
Yeah, it's plausible, but, like...
I would think the same thing. Just because, like, when I was doing my research, and I kind of didn't like this when I was doing my research, definitely highlighted that Pauline, like, dated around a lot.
Yeah. She was
and had, like, multiple partners, like, at one time. So I didn't like that they kind of, like, focused on that, but it does make sense as to why that could be a possibility, is because, shoot, like we said earlier, like, people get real serious about their feelings. And, I mean, like, can you fault them?
Yeah,
really?
You can't play around
but, like,
with
honestly, you don't need to take it, you don't need to take it to this extent, but, you know. And I think the same thing. I think it would be an X as well. That just seems the most plausible to me.
And it sucks because when it comes to cases
and the rage,
there's always an answer that makes sense, but sometimes it's not that answer.
Right. And although, like, yeah, there's the women or, like, the wives of the men, but she was sexually assaulted. And unless they were using, like, something else, I don't think that they could carry out that part of the, the murder. I just don't see how that really correlates. So definitely an X makes sense.
Like, an X.
Yeah. Makes the most sense. Do you think that this crime could be solved with genetic genealogy, which is DNA testing, kind of like how we were talking about ancestry earlier, and what is it, 23andMe?
Yes, 23andMe.
Yeah, so do you think that this crime could be
honestly
solved if they were to use it? Because I don't even think they've tried.
The technology that we have today, definitely. They can definitely figure out who did that.
I think so too, especially nowadays with everybody that's doing the, like, ancestry testing and whatnot. They can find, like, your family tree and literally connect the dots and find, like, a murderer to a case just based off of, like, a distant cousin that decided to take the test and they're related to that perpetrator. Yeah, they've literally been solving cases this way. So I kind of wish that they would, like, try it for her case, because
just to give her that.
Who knows? Like, definitely, for her to get justice and to kind of solve the mystery, like, which a possibility is that there's so many.
You don't want to solve it though, like. Why
there's just some cases that aren't worth reopening, and I say that with quotations because that's what a police department would say. Some just aren't worth opening. So
you just don't want to go down the rabbit hole.
Or, it's probably not requested. So, the third question. Oh, you can go ahead with the third one.
And the third one is, how does this case make you feel?
This case makes me feel upset. Mainly because of just how she was brutally murdered. Yes, and assaulted. It was just, and at such a young age, she didn't even get to really live her life. Honestly.
Wasn't even started. She was babysitting, but, there's life after that.
Exactly. So, yes, I definitely am upset about this case. Just so many questions, like, who did it and why? Like, what's the motive, Like, I would really want to know, like, what would drive you so mad to have to hurt somebody that bad?
There's probably some shit that don't make sense. There's never, a reasonable
And the fact that it's unsolved, like, she never got justice. So, I'm upset.
Me personally, it is very upsetting. And it's only upsetting because of, like, the details that you have found. Old men, like, catcalling and, like, having the multiple boyfriends. That shit's shifty also. So it's like, anybody could have done this shit. And
that's the thing. So many questions. You don't know.
It's like a very dismissive. It's like dismissive on the police department's part, in a sense. So it's like, damn, y'all didn't even try for real.
Right. And I feel like that happens in a lot of cases when it shouldn't. This. But, like, we can only do so much, There's not much that, like, we can do personally, like, we can get upset about it, but honestly,
like, it's not gonna solve it.
Yeah, they're doing what they can. I'll say that. They're doing what they can, and
I'll give them that.
That's better than nothing. So the last question is, what questions do you guys have for us? And I've said this in a video or an episode before, but on the Anchor app, if you do listen to us on Anchor, you can actually record an audio clip, and you can basically send in an audio comment, and we can add it to our episodes and answer the questions in episodes if you guys would like that. Or you can also just ask us questions on our social media, or you can email us questions as well, because we're always down to answer them, and we can answer them like in response to like a DM or a comment, or we can answer them in a video or an episode. I always say video.
Feel free to just send them out there. It doesn't matter what the question is. It can be stupid. It can be however you feel about it. Just send the question and we'll answer it.
Yeah.
Also, recommendations for episodes. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, we're always taking recommendations. So yeah, this concludes episode 8, part 4 of the FNC series.
We're really doing it out here.
Yeah. Or is this part 3? Man, go back and look.
Is it?
Oh man, no. We did Alaska. Oh, part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all we have for you guys this week. And tune back in, because we're going to go ahead and talk about cannibalism.
Would you eat your own liver?
What kind of question is that, though? Would you?
Probably.
Your own liver?
If it's good. If it's prepared right, I'm down for it.
But don't you need that to live? How you going to eat it?
What do you mean? You don't necessarily need it. They do liver transplants all the time.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a kidney.
You can live without one of those too.
Oh. Oh, shit. Oh. Yeah. I knew that.
Yeah. So, guys, okay. I've been your host, DJ.
And I've been your host, Sam.
Stay light, stay bright, and
we'll catch you next week. Because I'm feeling real hungry.
Right.